Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's show, we're going to talk about PSG's wins over Nantes and Real Sociedad, the Bombshell reporting earlier this week regarding Kylian Mbappé, and so much more. We really have so much to talk about. I hope we can get to all of it. And here to help me do it, we have Ethan from PSG Fan Club Boise. Ethan, thanks so much for joining the show. Settle in because we have a lot to talk about. Are you ready to do this, Ethan?
Yeah, let's get it going.
What we're going to do with this podcast is we're going to try to take things chronologically. We're going to go back to Monday, Tuesday of this past week. We're going to start there. So according to the reports that we're seeing, Kylian Mbappé, he's communicated with Nasser Al-Khelaifi on Tuesday, I believe it was. This is the day before PSG's match against Real Sociedad, that he intended to see out the remainder of his contract and leave as a free agent. If true, if that is when Mbappe communicated his intentions, Ethan, what do you make of that specific timing? The day before a Champions League match, that's when he communicates. What do you make of that?
Yeah, man, I hope you have a better answer than I do, because I don't know if I've got a great one, but a couple things that stand out is I'm a bit of an optimist, so I'm thinking, well, maybe he's trying to give as much time as humanly possible to prepare for the next season. Maybe he'd like to have this all squared away before we start our Champions League run, because he doesn't know if it's going to be 2 or up to 7 matches long. So, and that's the knockouts. Essentially, you play 2 to 7 matches, 7 if you make the final. So, I would hope that maybe it's out of a, hey, I'm going to prep you, and I want you guys to be prepared, have the most time to get that sorted. It could also be, I wonder if there's going to be any movement as far as now that there's going to be a bidding war essentially for him, and I think we all basically know where he's going to end up, but it'll give other clubs, maybe Arsenal, Liverpool, doubt Barcelona, but maybe, and then maybe some other club out of the blue, give him a chance to put in a bid and present their offer to Mbappe, that he can consider it compared to the Real Madrid offer, which we all expect him to take. So that's kind of what I thought, but I wanted to know, you have anything? Yeah, because my answers there were pretty vanilla, nothing crazy,
Yeah.
but I want to know what did you take from that?
I think I'm. Unfortunately, we're not starting out with a bunch of bangers here and hot takes. I think I'm with you. I think that Mbappe, he made his decision up. There was also reports that PSG were kind of coming to him with multiple offers. Hey, what if we do this? What if we do that? What about we, give you 1 year with an option and like all this stuff? And maybe he was like, I've made my mind up. I don't want any more offers. Let's just calm. I'm going to let you know what my intentions are and we can move forward. So I wonder if that kind of forced him that then was when he was going to do it. It is interesting that it was the day before a Champions League match, but we don't know what PSG were doing on their end. Maybe they were giving him some ultimatums. Hey, we need to know before the Champions League or something like that. We don't know what the dynamic was. So it's interesting. You can certainly speculate. You could say, oh, he's trying to derail the season, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think, as we saw today against Nantes, he seems pretty locked in. So I don't think he's trying to derail anything. I just think he has finally made his decision up, and he wanted to communicate that as early as possible. We're going to get into sort of the meat of this story a little bit later, but I think the earlier PSG knows, now that they can go and start identifying replacements. So I'm with you. I think he just made his mind up, didn't want to listen to any more offers, and wanted to get it over with as soon as possible. A lot more on this story later in the podcast, but I want to go, as we're going chronologically. Then came Wednesday, and PSG hosted Real Sociedad at the Parc des Princes in the round of 16 in the Champions League. PSG ultimately won that match 2-0 with goals from Kylian Mbappe and Bradley Barcola, both in the second half. I thought Luis Enrique made the interesting choice to start Fabian Ruiz over, say, Ugarte, and I thought Beraldo starting as a left back, I think it was. I thought that was also interesting. What did you think, as we kind of focus in on this match? What did you think of the lineup, the tactics? and the style of play PSG displayed in the first half compared to the second half. Just give me your take on that win on Wednesday.
Yeah, so the lineup, I kind of thought that he might start Ruiz. That makes sense. He was expecting a heavy Sociedad press, and Ruiz has been he's kind of turned into, last season he was more of an 8 for us, and he didn't do that well. This year he's figured it out more, and he's been a better 8 and a better 6. So he's been kind of at least in the last month or so, the defensive midfielder that Lucho relies on when he knows that we're going to face a heavy press. Ruiz is a lot better on the ball than Ugarte. I'd say his tackling is actually pretty similar. It's been real comparable this season, both very good. But Ugarte is a lot better in matches like the one today against Nantes that just ended. But we'll touch on that one later. But against the press, I did not hate starting Ruiz there. Now, I don't know if Lucas Hernandez wasn't fit or what, but when I saw Beraldo in the lineup, and then I saw who else was in defense, you knew he was going to play left back, and that scared me. I did not like that. Especially he was against Kubo for a lot of the night, and Kubo cooked him for the most part. Luckily, it didn't result in any goals, but I thought that was a bit risky. But other than that, I liked the rest of the lineup. I thought everything there was about as expected. Now, in the first half, the game kind of went how I expected, actually. I feel like in my head, I predicted it sort of well, that we'd start slow, have to figure out kind of feel the game out. I think I tweeted at halftime of that match that this is sort of what I expected. We got to get used to the way that they're going to press. There's watching film and seeing how Sociedad play only do you so much good. You just kind of have to experience it for yourself, just because there's not a lot of teams in Europe that press better than them. And I mean, we should have been up 1-0. The only decent chance that half for either side was Mbappe's shot that was saved in the 6th minute. But other than that, the first half was, just slow. No one wanted to make the first mistake, really. So it kind of was how I thought. I mean, I think before the tie started, I was projecting that we were going to advance 3-2 on aggregate. And so that's like a 2-1 and a 1-1 game. Didn't expect a bunch of goals. So that scoreless first half was sort of what I would have predicted. Yeah, I will say throughout the whole match, but the first half as well. Of course, Sociedad they looked incapable of scoring. And that kind of goes back to they haven't scored in their past 4 or 5 matches now. And
they had 0 shots on target.
No shots on target. Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
I think they did have one that hit the crossbar, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, it hit the crossbar. It would have needed to be several inches lower to go in. It hit the top of the crossbar. But they just have not been able to get anything going on offense. And I can't remember Oyarzabal for them. Did he get subbed on in the second half? I know he didn't start. He's been real good for them in attack this season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just recently, even with or without him, they've just really struggled lately. And so I was kind of saying last week, it's a stoppable force against a movable object. You know what? Is the bad offense going to beat the bad defense? And for us, the bad defense of PSG was able to get the win in that matchup. So I don't know, what were your takeaways? You could touch on what I said as well, but yeah, what stood out to you?
Yeah, what stood out to me, I didn't love Fabian Ruiz. I think he is a really good squad player, but he wouldn't be the first name that comes to mind that says, oh yeah, we need him starting in the knockout stage of the Champions League. So I was a little bit worried. And then you had Beraldo, who was in his first Champions League match. I was like, I don't know if I love that, and keeping Lucas Hernandez on the bench. So I thought initially, I was like, is this Luis Enrique overthinking this a little bit too much? And in that first half, I certainly was backed up on that, because I thought Fabian Ruiz was struggling. I thought that Beraldo really wasn't offering too much, but it's hard to really tell because Real Sociedad just don't have anything really going forward. So he didn't stand out as much, but I thought our midfield was really not doing well in that first half. And ultimately, I thought that Real Sociedad were being coached and were executing better at what they wanted to do compared to, I guess, what PSG were trying to do. So that first half, I was just left very frustrated. And then we come out in the second, and wow, surprisingly, Kylian Mbappe is able to score off a corner kick, so off a set piece here. I think he was at the back post. Someone, maybe it was Marquinhos, had headed the ball, and Kubo was marking Mbappe for reasons unknown, and he sort of left Mbappe to be all alone at the back post, and he was able to just roof his shot right into the goal to give PSG the lead. And once that went in, then Real Sociedad had to loosen up a little bit, and then you started seeing the spaces opening up, and that's when we saw who I think maybe he's not going to reach Kylian Mbappe levels. I think that's going to be very difficult. But Bradley Barcola has shades of Kylian Mbappe. He has a lot of skills that Kylian Mbappe possesses, and we saw that in his goal in the 70th minute when he sort of took that heavy touch in order to beat the defender, kind of lure him in, and his pace, and then that toe poke finish to beat the keeper was just outstanding. It is exactly the type of goal that you would see Kylian Mbappe score in this kind of a moment in the Champions League. So I was just blown away by that goal. And it isn't just like a one-time thing. Barcola has been playing like this in Ligue 1 for several matches now, and he comes in on this stage, isn't phased at all, and scores a goal like that to put PSG up 2-0. And that was in the 70th minute. So PSG had 20 more minutes to finish out the game, and they really should have probably gotten a third and really just ended this tie. So I'm a little bit nervous. 2-0 is good, but having to go to Spain, it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. They're going to have to hold on. And if they give up one goal, I'm going to start getting a little nervous. So plus all the distraction, as we're going to get into here in a minute, all the distraction that's swirling, you start getting worried. But as we saw today against Nantes, PSG are really becoming this second half team. And credit to Luis Enrique. I think it was Marquinhos said that he's not going to repeat what Luis Enrique said at halftime, but he made it clear that he was getting into the players somewhat. So I'd love to hear that from a manager, that he was able to go in at halftime, make adjustments, and fire up the guys. I think that's going to really bode well for PSG moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with just about everything you said. A couple things. I'm not quite sure exactly what sort of midfield changes that Luis Enrique made at halftime, but whatever it was, it sort of worked. And I think what you said about kind of assessing the opponent and then coming out in the second half with a better plan, I would agree with that. I think I don't think Warren Zaire-Emery had the best day ever, but in the second half, I noticed he seemed a little bit more technically sound. He wasn't, his first touch, his passing was a bit better. And until about the last 5 minutes of the match, I feel that we played our way out of their press a lot better than we did in the first half. So, from the first 40 minutes of the second half, I feel like we're a lot better, a lot more cohesive.
I thought Vitinha did really well in midfield, breaking through their press. Zaire-Emery, I'm with you, didn't have an amazing game, but he's just so physically strong that he's able to. Some of the Real Sociedad players were just kind of bouncing off of him. He was able to keep the ball and kind of break through that way. And then Fabio and Ruiz did really well in the midfield in the second half as well. So he did exactly what I thought Luis Enrique was hoping he would do, is be that really technically gifted footballer in the middle of the park who can break through that press. And it ended up working out. So I don't know if he made any adjustments. I just think ultimately his initial decisions worked out in the long run for him.
Yeah, agree. And I remember you and I we both tweeted after the first goal. We were like, holy cow, we scored from a corner. That's remarkable. You don't see that from PSG very often.
No.
But that Marquinhos, the header that he had, was basically the same exact thing that I think they did against, was it Milan in November or so, where it was off of a corner. And I think Marquinhos headed it, same thing, back post, and Skriniar was sitting there. It's sort of the same thing. Yeah, it's even though PSG is not a good aerial team, our aerial duels, we lose most of them. We're one of the worst teams left in European competitions at that. But I will say we've got two guys that do really well in the air, and that's Marquinhos and Skriniar. Now, of course, Skriniar was not on the pitch. He's been injured for weeks now, but that's really the only thing. When I see us lining up for a corner, almost all the time for the past 2 years, I've just been looking at Marquinhos because I'm thinking if the ball is going to go to someone, it'll most likely be him. Sometimes Danilo as well when he's on the pitch. But I was watching. I saw it going right towards Marquinhos. I thought he was just going to shoot from it, but then he laid it off, put it to the back post. And as soon as I saw Mbappe sitting there, I knew it was a goal. So, yeah, just great stuff from him. For all the mistakes that he's made, all the times where he just has barely missed out on, potentially making really clutch blocks or tackles in the Champions League. He's always been a very good aerial threat. So, yeah, and then the Barcola goal was also really
I want
good.
you to talk about Barcola because he's been on a tear here recently, and I mean, am
Yeah.
I crazy to say that he's got some Mbappe to him? Like he's got some of the same skill set.
No, no, you're really right. He's almost Dembele-esque already. I'd say one thing that Dembele is a lot better at cutting inside than Barcola is, but Dembele is absolutely world class at the way he does that. So for Barcola to not be at that level, but I think have similar attributes and talent in just about every other facet to Dembele is phenomenal.
His finishing has been better this season than Dembele, but yeah, with
Yeah.
the two of them on the wing, if you just get the ball out to them with any sort of space, if they're facing a defender,
Yep.
my money is on either Dembele or Barcola every single time. There's no defender that can stop them one-on-one.
Yeah, they're just way too quick. And the good thing about being a winger like that is you don't have to win all the time or most of the time. But if you win 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3 dribbles like that, then you're gonna be creating loads and loads of chances per game. So yeah, I absolutely love when we get the ball out wide to either of them, and there's only one defender, and that defender's totally isolated. It's 1v1. And I'm just thinking, all right, well, this defender is probably going to get cooked here, is what usually happens if our guy decides to make a run. So, yeah, really good stuff to see. I thought for sure when he had that touch, because his first touch has failed him a little bit this year for Barcola, and I thought it was going to again on that the goal he scored. I was like, oh, that's a heavy touch, and then he's got such a long stride, and he's quick enough. And he got there, and just when he scored, I was thinking, "Wow, that is insanely impressive."
Like he was like running on the edge of losing control, but he was still in control,
Yeah.
and like something about that is highly entertaining from a spectator point of view.
It
Like
really
he's right
is,
on the line of giving the ball away and overrunning the ball and all of that, and he just stayed with it, and it seemed like he kept the ball. It was like on a string, but it was at the end of the string. You know what I mean?
Oh, is at the very end. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's how I felt about that goal. Yeah, great stuff.
So PSG will, on March 5th, if I'm not mistaken, they will travel to Real Sociedad. Am I correct? You've been to that stadium. What is awaiting PSG when they go? How difficult is this going to be? Because we've seen PSG struggle on the road in the Champions League this season. So
yeah,
what do you think about that? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I've been to San Sebastian. I've been to the Anoeta, as they usually call it. I will admit I have not been there for a game, but I did a stadium tour. Got to go on it. Got to walk just right next to the pitch. But I have mentioned before that Sociedad is the only La Liga team that I watch consistently. Outside PSG, Sociedad and Stuttgart in the Bundesliga, those are the only teams that I follow consistently. Just because I have little familial connections, or I don't have a connection to Sociedad, but other than that, Boise here has a massive Basque population, biggest in the U.S. So that's kind of why I traveled there way back.
We'll have to have you do some like man on the street interviews with some Real Sociedad fans there, get their take on it.
Yeah, I thought about watching the first leg at one of the local bars in the Basque district, the one that is the official bar that we partner with for the fan club here in Boise. It's very close to Basque District, just a couple blocks away. But for the second leg, I might go down there and watch it there because I know there'll be a lot of people in Sociedad kits. And like I know some it's kind of weird to think, like, imagine finding some random fan of some seemingly random team just in your city in the Western US, but there's a lot of Athletic Club Bilbao and Real Sociedad fans here in Boise. Like I said, that's attributing the Basque population. But yeah, I've been to the stadium. I watch a lot of their matches, and that stadium is loud. I know it's made the rounds lately on social media that I forget. I don't even think it was against their rival Athletic Club, but I think most of us have seen that video where everyone in the stadium they got arms around each other and they're bouncing up and down. I can't remember what they call that.
Is it the Poznan?
Yeah, the Poznan. That's what it is. They're all doing the Poznan, the whole stadium, something like 50,000 people or so, and just the stadium shaking. And it's a very loud atmosphere. It's Real Sociedad is an extremely proud club. I know that they don't have the Basque only policy like their rivals do, but their manager has been there for forever. Imanol Aguacil, he's been there long time. They actually mentioned this on the broadcast during the first leg, but many of the guys that played minutes for Sociedad on Wednesday are guys that Aguacil managed when he was the coach of the B team years ago. So it's a tight-knit club. Very proud club. I think the Basque country is just absolutely beautiful. It's just an amazing area. I need to go back soon. And I remember for the group stage, I was saying that if Sociedad were drawn in our group, then I was going to have to go to the away leg. Didn't happen, and now in the spring it's too late. I got too much going on, but I would love to be there. But that stadium is loud, they're intense, and these guys will fight till the very end. I mean, the Basque people, they are so passionate about football. They're so passionate about their roots and their origins. So it's going to be an intense atmosphere, and I will be nervous if Sociedad score the first goal. I don't think that we're as prone to collapse as we've seen in the past, but it's kind of been, a lingering issue with this team. So if we score the first goal, even if it's like 5 minutes in and then say Sociedad score in the first half, it's 1-1 at the end of the first half, then I'm not that worried. But if they score in the first 30 minutes, then the stadium's going to be very loud. It's going to be intense. They're going to be playing very physical football. So I would not be surprised. And these guys they don't play dirty, but these guys play intense. And if they need a goal late and the crowd is behind them and it feels like the momentum of the game is behind them, I would not be surprised if they're just going in with crazy tackles, trying to make something happen. So that's kind of what I'm expecting for the second leg.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the atmosphere is going to be incredible. I think PSG should probably play this one a little bit conservative. They've got a 2-goal lead. The away goal thing isn't a thing anymore. So I think what PSG should do is Real Sociedad really struggles to score goals. So maybe you sit back a little bit, absorb a little bit of the pressure, don't get forward. You don't need to score goals, and you just play a counterattack game because they have to come out and they have to score. So they're gonna push forward, and you have the ultimate counterattack player in Kylian Mbappe, and then Barcola and Dembele. So you just release them into acres of space once Real Sociedad gets a little bit too much forward. And I think that's the game you play. And I think that's a smart way to go. And I don't think PSG will be under too much pressure because, again, Real Sociedad have really been struggling to score goals both against PSG and in recent results we've seen. They just aren't able to score and don't really have that marquee striker that a lot of the big Champions League teams have. So I think that's probably the smart way to play it. So, Ethan, any other thoughts on Real Sociedad on Wednesday before we move to the news from Thursday? Anything else?
I can't think of anything. No.
All right, well, let's get into it. Everybody listening is probably waiting for us to talk about this. So Thursday, Fabrizio Romano, I'm going to say it was probably around midday for us, maybe evening time for everyone in Paris and Europe. But it was on Thursday. Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein, pretty much every top tier journalist, they were all reporting the same thing. I don't know who had it first. It might have been Fabrizio. And it was that the news was that Mbappe has made the decision to leave PSG. We had heard this in January. There were some other reports that came out, but it was kind of sprinkled here and there and always came like with another report that said, oh, Mbappe hadn't made a decision. This is the first time where we had so many top tier journalists all together, all saying the same thing. So it kind of had a little bit more belief to it. But we still haven't heard from the club and we still haven't heard from PSG. But all the reports from everyone that you would typically trust says that Mbappe has made the decision. And that's also when we learned that Mbappe had communicated to Nasser and the club on Tuesday that he intended to leave. We already talked about that timing, but what do you think about the timing of the story come out, that the leak came out on Thursday? Who do you think let the news out? What do you make of the whole day on Thursday of this news breaking? Why then? Who leaked it? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if we had to put money on it, it was probably Mbappe's camp that I think personally. I know some people think it was Real Madrid, and I'm sure that Florentino Perez and the rest of the Real Madrid board and staff, I'm sure they were notified that he wasn't extending with us probably the same day that he told Nasser on Tuesday. But so it definitely could have been Real Madrid, but I think Mbappe hasn't made a decision of where he wants to go. So I think it would have been unlikely to see him make some sort of post saying I'm leaving, because that almost sounds like a farewell post. But we still have plenty of the season left. So because he hadn't decided where he wanted to go, he just knew he wasn't going to stay. I'm going to guess that it was Mbappe's camp. I could be wrong though, but they do really like to control what the image of Kylian is, and I don't blame him. This is his parents that are behind a lot of this, and they kind of have a brand to protect. But yeah, once we saw that, because I think I had mentioned on another podcast, all my buddies reached out to me in January when the report from Le Parisien came out, saying, "Oh, Mbappe's leaving," and I was driving around all day that day and trying to respond to stuff while I'm at red lights and stuff, saying like, "No, guys, like this is not a good source. Just because ESPN and Bleacher Report announced it in the U.S. doesn't mean that it's true." But when I told them, I even said, wait until Fabrizio Romano posts it. He's the Shams or the Woj of football Twitter, because there's just, and a lot of my friends, they didn't realize that European football news reporting is just nowhere near as accurate as it is here in the U.S. But when Fabrizio came out with it, and then a couple of the other most respected sources that we all listen to came out and said that he's leaving, then I'm thinking, all right, well, now it's actually true. Of course, he could stay. Nothing's in writing, but I'm not going to hold on to some hope. I mean, it's 99.8% sure that he's gone. I think some really weird factors would have to happen for him to consider staying. So I'm going to be talking as if he's definitely leaving. If just some shocking revelation comes up that says differently, then we'll go from there. But I was waiting on the Fabrizio report or the tweet on it. Once you hear that, it's almost certainly correct. He is wrong.
He's gotten it wrong in the past, but
he has. But
David Ornstein and others.
Yeah, he gets it wrong far less than the average, even reliable reporter. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know if Mbappe would have let this come out, and it's because everything that we've heard before is that he does not like talking about his future during the season. And it's not like PSG are out of the Champions League or anything. They're still in it, and they just won. They have a really good chance to get to the next stage. it seems out of character for Mbappe or his camp to be the ones to let this out. We remember in 2022, um, he didn't make his decision until I think it was the last home game of the season, which I think was the last game of the season. And so I had written a piece that like we probably won't hear from Mbappe until the last, maybe the week before the last home game this season, because he really does like to just stay to himself, stay calm. He doesn't like to be a distraction, even though sometimes by not saying anything, you can kind of be a distraction because people then are led to speculate. So I thought that he probably did tell, as we talked about earlier, he probably did tell Nasser because there were some maybe offers and he was done with it. He's like, look, I'm leaving. And he probably did tell Real Madrid because there's the signing on fee and there's some negotiating with PSG in terms of his loyalty bonus. So maybe he needed to get those gears in motion. And I personally think Real Madrid just couldn't help themselves. And I think someone associated with them probably let this out. And so some people may say, well, Fabrizio, he probably gets his information from PSG or Nasser. Real Madrid, they know how to get in touch with any and all journalists at any publication. So I don't know if that's something that we can rely on. When I look at it, the news coming out now, who does that benefit? Benefits Real Madrid. It doesn't benefit PSG. It doesn't benefit the French league. And I don't know if it benefits Mbappe because he doesn't want his teammates having to deal with this. And we know on March 5th when they have the press conference, what do you think the questions are going to be about? So I don't think it benefits Mbappe, this story coming out now. It only benefits Real Madrid. And then we saw these other glowing reports coming out about Real Madrid, how they were confident, the dressing room knew Mbappe was coming, and that the Real Madrid president really, he was always fond of Mbappe because he called him personally back in 2022 and told him, over the phone that he wasn't coming in. All these glowing stories. So if you ask me, I think that the leak on Thursday probably came from someone associated with Real Madrid. We had a Twitter Spaces after the news came out, and I said that PSG should just make sure that the leak didn't come from them because this really kind of hinders them. So I would hope it wouldn't have come from anyone there. But where the leak came from ultimately doesn't matter. What does matter is it does look like Mbappe will be leaving. I also said that in the Twitter Spaces that Mbappe has the chance to do the funniest thing ever, which is do a complete U-turn and prove all those journalists wrong and stay, because there are a lot of reasons to stay. We saw the report he's going to be making less money at Real Madrid. We have no idea where he's going to play at Real Madrid. I wouldn't even say that's one of the top tier leagues. Like if Mbappe really wanted to test himself, go to the Premier League. Because now with him going to Real Madrid, who's going to challenge Real Madrid in Spain? Do you see anyone that can challenge them in La Liga at all?
No, yeah, Barcelona's their debt problem is still really bad. They actually still have Barcelona has a total club payroll, and that's not just players, but players and staff. They have a higher payroll than we do right now, and we still have Mbappe on staff. And I've talked about this before. I don't know why our staff payroll is so high. It was ridiculous like 2-3 years ago, according to Deloitte. But
is it taxes? They just have to overpay because after taxes?
No, that could make sense because French taxes are higher, and I believe I've got this right. If you are a foreign player playing in, let's say you're a Spanish player playing in France or vice versa, then you typically get taxed less because most of these countries, like there was a report about this with Italy a couple weeks ago, where they had this law that was really favorable to bring in foreign players, and that law was set, I don't know, years ago, and it never got renewed within their Congress or however they do that. And so that rule went away. So it'll be a little harder for Italian clubs to attract foreign players in the future because they don't have these very lucrative or advantageous tax laws for bringing in foreign, non-Italian players. All these other leagues still have that, though, especially that sort of law, that same idea is strongest in La Liga. And so, I mean, you saw players like when David Beckham went there back in the day, that dude was paying way less taxes than you would have expected. And that helped build MSN for Barcelona. That helped build the Galacticos, both of the Galacticos teams for Real Madrid as well. So I don't know if I might have been wrong on this. I just say that MSN was at Real Madrid? If I did, then obviously we all know that's not true. It was Barcelona. But you get the point. Both of those clubs, they built these really star-studded attacks with foreign players. Not a lot of Spanish guys in those lineups. So that kind of stuff Mbappe always kind of has the chance to, pay less taxes in Spain than he does here. And I know I'm getting a little sidetracked. I'll try and
no worries.
bring it back to the main point. But overall, I guess I'm going to be honest. I kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, we were talking about, all the downside to going to Real Madrid. We talked about he's going to be earning less. Not that he's, drastically less, but it is he can make more money at PSG than Real Madrid. And the league is better than Ligue 1. Sure, I concede that 100%. But is it as good as the Premier League? Is it as competitive top to bottom? I don't think it is. I don't. In the Premier League, he'd have to go up against Erling Haaland and Manchester City and Arsenal are coming on. So if it's like a competitive thing that he wants to really be tested against the best, go to the Premier League.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just don't think it is. I think for him, and he's mentioned how he's made hints at the fact that he thinks the whole Farmers League accusations for Ligue 1 are ridiculous. When Lyon made the semifinals of the Champions League in the COVID season, he immediately tweeted out Farmers League with a bunch of laughing emojis. So I don't think that's the biggest thing for him. I think it's image or where he's had this idea of playing at Real Madrid for a long time.
Also grew up an AC Milan supporter.
No, I know. That's the thing. It's just AC Milan doesn't have anywhere near the financial backing that PSG and Real Madrid do. And just AC Milan might have to be something that he likes the idea of but never happens. But
it just seems odd that he's like, I have to go to Real Madrid because I was a Cristiano Ronaldo fan and I had his posters on my room, so that's the club I got to go to. And I know the history and all that, but it's like, okay, you win them their 15th Champions League title.
Yeah, congrats.
Great. Or you could win the first at PSG, and it would be monumentally more important in the history of football than the 15th at Real Madrid.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be over it in an hour and be like, okay, what are you going to do next?
Oh, seriously. After they won it a couple years ago, they were like so hyped. And then they were like, all right, like, what are we doing for next season? It's like, holy cow, it's the same day. Like they're numb to winning. It's like if you were a Patriots fan back in the day. Although this would even be worse. They were winning more frequently than Brady and Belichick were in New England. So you can't even compare it. But if he won it at PSG, he without a doubt gets a statue. He is undoubtedly the greatest player in club history, and the city of Paris will talk about this for years. Yeah. Like
he wins a Ballon d'Or because if you win it at PSG, he probably won Ligue 1.
Correct,
and you probably did well with France. You're winning the Ballon d'Or.
True, yeah, you're winning the Ballon d'Or if you're Mbappe and you win the Champions League here, without a doubt. He can achieve everything he wants to achieve sporting wise here. So for me, it's got to be some other. It's not just a true sporting decision. Because I think like you said, he can achieve everything sporting here at PSG if he wants, and it's clearly not a competition thing or going to the highest level because he isn't going to be in the Premier League next year. So it's probably a lot of an image thing, and I spoke on this yesterday, I think, but a lot of his it seems funny, like the average fan. I think we would have made different decisions if we were in his boots. A couple years ago under Poch, during the big saga, we were surprised that he stayed. And then he stayed under Galtier. But now that this is the best project we've had in 5 years, now he's going to leave. It's interesting timing. Like you said, he's going to take a pay cut. So you can't just say that it's just
Probably
money.
giving up on his image rights, at least some percentage. He probably gets more percentage at
Likely.
PSG.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's just all these things that it seems like I think the average person would have should pick the other way there. Whereas if you hadn't left in the past, why would you leave now?
Yeah.
So his mind is not where we all think it is. I feel like we try and figure out what's his mentality, what's his mindset, what's he thinking, but it's clearly on a different wavelength from all of us because he's making the opposite decision that we would in most cases. So, um, I mean, ultimately, it is his choice. I'm not going to fault him for anything, but yeah, I just think I think only Kylian and his family ultimately know down to the last detail why he's going. Because they know him better than anyone, and a lot of his decisions just don't quite seem to make a lot of sense to us, the average fan.
It's fair. Yeah. I mean, and credit to Mbappe because he's going to Real Madrid where there will be a lot more media pressure on him. Um, a lot more fan pressure will be on him. All eyes will be on Mbappe. And I would say in that first season, winning La Liga is the absolute bare minimum. And it's sort of similar at PSG, but is
Agree.
the bare minimum. And we know Barcelona's issues, but they do have some nice players there, and we know Atletico Madrid. So there will be some challenges there, and who knows, Real Sociedad might be able to put in a challenge. But so winning the league is going to be bare minimum. And with Jude Bellingham, with Vinicius and Mbappe, I would say what semifinals, final of the Champions League is the bare minimum in his first season. Would you say that that's fair? And if so,
Yeah.
credit to Mbappe because that is a lot of pressure. And if he doesn't accomplish that, and if he's not the main driver scoring goals and the main contributor, the Real Madrid fans, I would imagine, are going to turn up the heat.
Yeah, I agree. Real Madrid has somehow never won the treble in their club's history. And I think if Mbappe spends 5 or more years there, if he never wins the treble at one point, I think some fans will be kind of upset. But most of all, like you said, winning La Liga needs to be automatic for them at this point. And then they need to be deep in the
Probably the
Champions
Copa
League.
del Rey as well is probably a bare minimum.
Yeah, they got to be winning the Copa del Rey like basically every year. And yeah, I would agree. If there's ever a year where they don't make the semifinals of the Champions League, that's just an automatic failure. If you're not in, if you're not playing in at least the second to last Champions League match of the season, then yeah, it's a disappointment. So
Yeah.
yeah, the pressure will be at an all-time high on him.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll get so many insane, irrational takes about him.
And then imagine, let's say he
yeah.
does accomplish everything in the first season. He does win. Is he the main contributor? Is he going to win the Ballon d'Or? Is Jude Bellingham? Because he was on a tear before his ankle injury. He's not going to be playing out on the wing, his favorite position, because Vinicius is there unless they plan to move Vinicius somewhere else. So is he going to win the Ballon d'Or, which we know is important to him as well?
Yeah, I think because of media, it's a lot of a media award. It's I feel like a lot of players. I can't remember exactly who said it, but some really big player, I think retired guy, just a couple days ago said these individual awards are so heavily based on marketing and the media perception of you. So I think he will be the face there. If you're Jude Bellingham and if you really care about individual awards, then this is a huge loss for you because you're going to have more goal contributions than Mbappe each year to stand a chance at the Ballon d'Or, I think.
And Jude's going to be playing in a position that he's comfortable with, and we've seen what he's been able to do without Mbappe there.
I just still don't. Even with Mbappe playing as a true, well, maybe not like as a true nine, but maybe a wide forward, he won't be on the wing exclusively. Even with that, and even with Jude Bellingham playing as this 8-10 hybrid that he really likes, or even just a straight 10 attacking midfielder, I still don't see him getting more goal contributions than Mbappe. So I think Mbappe will win a bunch of Ballon d'Ors in the coming seasons. But yeah, Jude Bellingham, which at the end of the day, players I feel like will definitely take club trophies over individual awards. But In my opinion, I think Jude can basically kiss individual awards goodbye.
And what will be amazing as we look to maybe transition to the next topic here is if PSG win a Champions League either this season with Mbappe or if PSG wins it before Mbappe at Real Madrid,
Yeah.
absolute scenes, right? If
Yep.
they win this season or maybe next season without
Yeah.
Mbappe and they win one before, I mean that in the piece that I wrote over on Substack was basically saying that every player at PSG should now have a chip on their shoulder. Whether it's true or not, they should just have the mindset. Mbappe doesn't think I'm good enough to win. That he
That's a
doesn't
good
think he
point.
can win with me,
Yeah.
and that should motivate you to beat him to a Champions League
I love
title.
that. Yeah, I
And
love
we've
that.
never had that sort of motivation. It's always been, oh, PSG, all this money, but they should, of course, win. We should now, okay, he's gone. Maybe now PSG have this underdog mentality. And Barca will be like, you think Vinicius is better than me? And he is, but that should be his mentality and say, I'm going to train harder than ever before, and I'm going to prove that I can do it, and we're going to win. And that should be the mentality, right?
Yeah, totally agree. A couple things on that I want to touch on is when Mbappe leaves, we will not have a single player on this squad that we bought for over 95 million. Kolo Muani will be the most expensive guy.
Is he 60, 65?
Well, Kolo Muani was 95, but like
90. Okay. I was way
Ramos was
off.
60, Hakimi was 68,
Barcola was like 40, 45, something.
45. Nuno
Yeah.
Mendes was 40, I think. Vitinha 40 or 45. Yeah, so it'll be a lot of guys that we bought for, and of course, 45 million or 60 million. That's a lot of money. But Real Madrid have Bellingham and Mbappe, which I know they're not buying Mbappe, but they'll be paying him something like 50 plus million a year. And they bought Jude Bellingham for 100 and something million. Yeah, you're totally right. The pressure will be on them to win. And I love that piece of in the Champions League. I mean, imagine if next season, which UEFA might just do this
Yeah.
for the scenes, and you already know what I'm going to say. If they put us and Real Madrid in the same group, if it's even possible, which I don't think it will be, but if by some weird miracle we're in different pots, I promise you we're going to end up in the same group.
Well, I think we're going to probably play them this season. And yeah, if they can rig it so we play them, every season or every other season, I think they would love that. And I mean, just imagine, Barcola and Xavi Simons leading PSG into a Champions League final and
man.
Mbappe and Real Madrid got knocked out by like Leipzig or something. I mean, how if there's a football god, right? We PSG fans have been through a lot. Can we have that? Can PSG win a Champions League with Mbappe gone before he wins one with Real Madrid?
Yeah, that would
If
be.
we have that, I'm good. I'm good with the game. Whatever happens after that, for years, I don't care. That's my moment. That's all I care about.
I'm totally with you. That would be, and I want to win it with Mbappe, but I just don't think this team.
If we can win it this year, amazing. But
Yeah,
if not, and he leaves,
then it's going to be. I won't dislike him. I'll still like him, and I'll want him to do well while simultaneously wanting Madrid to play poorly. But yeah, if it would be just about the craziest thing ever. Yeah, if we don't win it this year, then I will be praying to the football gods that, man, if you're out there, if the football gods, if you could redeem yourselves for La Remontada, that collapse
Manchester United.
that was my next bit. The 2020 Champions League final, the Real Madrid collapse a couple years ago, and several other moments. If you could redeem yourself and just give us this one moment for us to win the Champions League before them, I mean, social media would blow up.
I would even say if they would let us win a Champions League before Mbappe and Real Madrid, like if the next season we got relegated to League Two, I'd be okay with that. I think I'd be okay with that.
That's funny. Well, I mean, because we would go right back up, but
right. I'd be fine. I'll take a season, but yeah, I mean, it'd be amazing. Well, we're talking a little bit about the future, Ethan. I want to ask you because looking ahead, it's being reported that PSG this summer are going to make 2-3 big signings, a couple world-class players. Some of the names being thrown about: Victor Osimhen at Napoli, Benjamin Sesko over at Leipzig, Lenny Euro, who we know at Lille, your guy Bernardo Silva, Manchester City, and even today Marcus Rashford, which I don't put a lot of credit into that, but he's a name that's out there. All of them mentioned as maybe a player PSG would entertain signing this summer. Who do you want? Are there any names attractive to you? Are there specific positions where there's a hole in the squad? What kind of business? Because the PSG are going to have to be, what is that, 200 million from when Mbappe leaving? They're going to have the loyalty bonus coming back. So we're going to have money to spend. How do you want them to spend that?
Yeah, we're going to have his $72 million annual wages plus. I personally think the $200 million figure that people are putting out is overblown, but certainly with all the bonuses, we'll be saving at least $100 million a year. That's for sure.
Let's say maybe 150, 125, somewhere in that range.
My guess is like 125, but either way, that's a ridiculous amount of money. For a guy leaving on a free transfer. Maybe the 200 million is thinking, 72 million in wages plus his annual bonus plus the loyalty bonus that he's giving us back. So,
and that's what they're negotiating now. Yeah. I think I saw that 200 million from David Ornstein in the Athletic. So
I can see that. Yeah, it's like this next year we'll save 200 million. In the future, it'll probably just be the salary plus whatever bonus. But yeah, so it's an insane amount either way. And for me, it's real simple. Of course, Lucho and Luis Campos, they know far better than I do. But in my head, I feel like it makes perfect sense to do not buy an attacker. We bought Mbappe's replacement this summer for 4 million euros, Xavi Simons. We already got him. Yeah, is he as pacey? Is he as good? No, obviously not. He's worth like 75 million right now, according to like Transfermarkt and those other websites. And we just bought the guy for 4 million. We basically sent him on a $4 million loan to PSV and then loaned him out again. And so we've got our guy we've got our guy there. And
there was something about the 18-month loan because PSG wanted to maybe transfer him, and if they did, all the funds would go back to PSV. So that's why they did the 18-month loan. But now they want him sooner, so that's why they got to negotiate with Leipzig. It's very complicated.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe those reports, but but like I promise you, even if it is an 18-month loan, he will be at PSG this summer. We've got him there. We've got him on the left wing if we want. We got him as a 10 if we want. We've already got Barcola on the left wing if we want. We're solid on the left wing. And on the right wing, of course, not that that's Mbappe's position, but we've got Dembele, Asensio, Kang-In Lee. I mean, Kang-In Lee, he's not like setting the world on fire, but he's not a bad third right winger to have. And he's also versatile. We've seen he can play as like an 8-10 hybrid. He's a bit Neymar-esque at times. The attack is sorted. We've also got Colomwani and Ramos. I love Gonzalo Ramos's profile. I think he could really go off in the future if we give him a chance and if we suit the play style to fit him a little bit better. And we've also got Asensio as a false nine if we ever want to do it. I feel like we're set in attack. There's no reason. I mean, Xavi Simons was loaned out this season for a reason. It's because he's not going to play over Mbappe, obviously. And so now that Mbappe will be gone, just slot him right in. The attack is set. I feel like people want us to go out and get Osimhen or Leao or someone like that. And it's like, I don't know why we'd spend more than 20 million on an attacker when we just spent 60 and 95 million on Ramos and Colomwani. We just spent so much money on them. We're not going to dump them out the door immediately unless we're going to be able to make that money back. And if Luis Enrique really hates that guy's profile, I don't see it happening. So it's unrealistic for me. All I want, real simple, I want us to get Lenny Yoro from Lille. He's like probably the best French, he is the best French ball-playing center back prospect.
He's got to be priority one. He's got to be the first signing because Real Madrid are sniffing around, and you can't let them have Mbappe and Euro. It just can't happen.
Totally agree. And then I want us to go out. I've always liked the idea, and I don't think it'll happen. I've really liked Ibrahima Konate at Liverpool for a long time.
Did he play at Leipzig with Mukiele?
I think he did, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he's from Paris. He's from East Paris, the 11th arrondissement. That's not far from Bondy, for anyone wondering where Mbappe is from. So they're from like pretty close, similar part of town. And I think he's a great center back. I don't expect to get both of them, especially because I think that Lucas Hernandez, if in 2-3 years the center back pairing is Lucas Hernandez and Lenny Yoro, then I'll be thrilled. I feel like Lucas Hernandez he'll never be like in the conversation of greatest center back in the world at the time, but I feel like he's up there in the conversation for best. So that pairing, I feel like, is definitely good enough to fix our current defensive problems. Especially we've got Nuno Mendes as well. But yeah, I want Lenny Yoro, and then I want some sort of progressive midfield option. Someone who's attack minded. Vitinha's pretty good, and I really like Vitinha, but I just think if we want to go pretty, pedal to the metal as far as winning the Champions League, I want Bernardo Silva. His release clause is just 55 million. He's interested in playing for PSG. He's played in Liga before, and I think he would just be a great option. Because here's the thing: a lot of people might say, "Well, Vitinha's going to lose his playing time, or maybe we'll take out Warren Zaire-Emery at times." Well, not that PSG have the heaviest match schedule in the world. We have 34 league games, and we only have one cup opposed to two. But if we can play all these guys, rotate them all out about evenly, and play all of our midfielders 80% of minutes in the season, then guys are going to be consistently, staying pretty fresh. And Luis Enrique will have plenty of midfield options to go to. So right now, I feel like Asensio will play as an attacking midfielder at times a little bit. And it doesn't work bad, but he's really the only guy that can kind of half do it. And other than that, as far as true midfielders, eights, it's just Warren Zaire-Emery and Vitinha. Soler hasn't played in forever. I kind of forgot he was at the club, honestly. And Ruiz has more been a backup to Ugarte recently. So I just want Yoro and Bernardo Silva or someone like them. And then I think we're ready to just give this team a couple years. Another thing we could touch on, or I'll just touch on, is that Luis Enrique should get a contract extension soon. I say as soon as we beat Sociedad, then give him an extension. But just give that, with the additions I just mentioned, give those guys 2 years, time to cook under Enrique, build the system. Is Luis Enrique the best coach in the world? No, like Pep's probably better. But if you give him time to implement the system, then we've seen how effective it can be, as he made it known at Barcelona about 8-9 years ago. So anyway, that was kind of long for me, but I want to know, who do you want? I know you've talked about Sesko just a little bit. Let me hear your take on squad additions.
Yeah, so I mentioned, I jumped in there earlier. Lenny Yoro has to be a priority one. We need help defensively. We need to add some height to this squad. So he would be number one. And I think PSG probably should be negotiating with him and Leo right now so we can get that deal done as soon as possible, as soon as the window opens up. I want that to be day one announcement. Here we go. Lenny Yoro to PSG. That has to be it. And it feels like it's something that could happen. So I think there's mutual interest. I think his agent is familiar with PSG, and so we've done deals. So hopefully that can be something. You mentioned Benjamin Sesko over at Leipzig. Really like him. Traditional striker, sort of like a Lewandowski type. I think he's 6'3". He's a great goal scorer. Again, we need to add height to the squad. We talk a lot about set pieces. Having a Benjamin Sesko in there would be great. At 20 years old, I think you can bring him in, bring him along a little slowly, get him some, he's going to have experience in the Champions League with Leipzig, but I don't think you can ever have enough young players like that, in the squad. And so he's a player, I think if you have the opportunity, I think you got to jump on that. I don't love Victor Osimhen. He's a player I think would probably prefer a move to the Premier League. And if he came to PSG, it might be just because we're the only ones who can afford him. He doesn't really want to be here. I think we need to get away from that. We need players here who want to be here. So I like Sesko. I like Lenny Yoro. I like your guy, Bernardo Silva. You said 55 million. That seems pretty reasonable for a player of his quality and experience. bring him in, and I think, working alongside Xavi Simons, I think those two would be great. I don't like Marcus Rashford. I'd pass on him. There's the guy at Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes. I think he's a player that seemed linked with PSG in January. He's another midfielder. If you don't feel confident in what you have, maybe he's a player you can sign as well. I wouldn't be terribly upset with that. But overall, I think PSG don't have that many holes in the squad, even with Mbappe leaving. I don't think you need to spend the full 125 or 200 million. I think you can be strategic and you just bring in a couple of young guys who want to be here. I think that'd be great. One player to keep your eye on. You mentioned Liverpool with Konate. Virgil van Dijk is a player. I think he's coming up on the last year of his deal. We know Klopp is leaving. He's your prototypical center back. He's everything that you would want in a center back. Could there be something there? Could you sign Van Dijk if Liverpool are entertaining offers? I'd kick the tires on it. I'd at least see if he would be interested in what it would take to sign him. So, but mostly defensively and in the midfielder, that's where I would concentrate most of the money. And then if Benjamin Sesko is available at Leipzig, maybe you could sign him. There's the other guy. I'm just going to look it up over at Bologna. Joshua Zirkzee. I think he's another player, very promising, 22 years old. He's having a great season at Bologna under Thiago Motta. He'd be another striker. If you feel like you need to bring in someone in the attack, just for some cover, injury, that sort of thing, someone promising you could bring along, maybe you look at him as well. So I think we're kind of on the same page there with transfers. But any final thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, I did not know that Zirkzee was at Bologna. That's weird.
Yeah.
That feels like something you'd see in FIFA. Like, in FIFA, you get really weird transfers the longer you go on. Like, I know people send in, they post screenshots of, it's the year 2029 and Neymar's 37 just signed for Notts County in England. It's like, that almost feels like, I just would not have guessed that Zirkzee was at Bologna. But
he's there. He's
well, I mean, he's got a great manager. So
a great manager. He's got 8 goals, 4 assists, and 23 appearances in Serie A. Bologna, playing really well. So
they're in European spots. Yeah, also we've touched on this totally out of context, but Thiago Motta, that's a future PSG manager. You can almost book it.
Yep. And I like the stability. I like your idea of giving Luis Enrique a contract. Let's get that stability. Ethan, we're running along here, but we got a couple more things that we need to talk about because we're recording, now it's about an hour after the match ended. PSG defeated Nantes. And I got to ask you because when the lineups came out, Mbappe and several others, let's not forget, who started against Real Sociedad, they were benched for the game against Nantes. There's been a lot of different opinions on this. I want to know what your take is on Luis Enrique benching Mbappe for what turned out to be about 60 minutes, because then Mbappe was brought in for the final 30, and he actually won a penalty and converted it. So I'll give my take on it, but what is your take on Mbappe not starting this match against Nantes just 2 days after the game on Wednesday?
Yeah, I originally I was thinking, just squad rotation. That's fair. And then I noticed a lot of people saying, "Oh no, they're going to bench him the rest of the season," or "This is punishment." And I was like, "All right, I almost didn't even want to entertain it. That just seems far fetched to me. I think we're clearly past. We're likely going to be in the Champions League quarterfinals. I don't think we're benching our best player for the rest of the season. Let's be real. Especially as a club who's never won the Champions League, is currently on the rise. We're not benching him for the rest of the year. But some people were speculating that might actually be the case. I thought it was baloney. I was telling some people, all right, he benched him for a game, but he's played something like basically all minutes in 27 of his last 29 games. One of those was because of injury that he didn't play the full match. That was Le Classique against Marseille, where he came out at the 32nd minute or so. But basically all but one of his last 29 games, he's played basically every minute he's been available. And so it's like, you got to rest him at some point. It was nice of the Coupe de France to move our match from late February to mid-March, that kind of helps with the fixture congestion this month. But I was just thinking, no, it's just rotation. I was telling people, if he gets benched next week as well, then, they might have a point. But then he came on in the 60th minute. It's like, well, he didn't get benched. He's not getting punished. He freaking played. He scored a goal. He won himself a penalty. At the end of the game, when we were killing the game off, he went over to the right wing and he was getting all creative, trying to have some fun with it, see if he can cook their left back. And I feel like all these rumors of like PSG, like what a shameful club, dropping their best player, was immediately, by the 60th minute was dispelled, because I don't think you can even seriously consider that anymore. I saw right when that was all coming out, I saw you said some stuff that probably goes against what my opinion just was.
A little bit, yeah, but
yeah,
go on and then I'll jump in.
No, I think that was just about the end of my point. But yeah, no, I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Okay, so Mbappe, a couple things. Mbappe is not your typical PSG player or typical footballer. I don't put him on the same level as Hakimi and others. He is special and he's a superstar, and when he wants to play, he plays. I think since he came to PSG, he's pretty much played. If he's healthy, he wants to play. We saw him when Tuchel took him out of the match when he was at PSG. There was a little blow up because Mbappe does not like coming off. He does not like not playing. He is hyper competitive and he wants to play in every match. Sometimes he's injured and he doesn't play, like we saw before the match. I think it was at Lille. He didn't play because he had a little bit of an injury to his ankle, so he didn't play in that one, so he'd be well rested against Real Sociedad. When you go back and look at all of PSG's Champions League matches this season, Mbappe played in every single match following a Champions League match. He played full 90 minutes except for one where I think he was subbed off in extra time towards the end of the match. So he plays. We saw against Revel in January, an amateur side, 6th tier or something like that, played 90 minutes. 90 minutes against guys who have like a day job. So for me, I thought, okay, you're benching him in this match. And it's coincidentally just a few days after this whole news came out that he's going to be leaving. Maybe it was for squad rotation. Maybe he needs a rest. My whole thing was this creates unnecessary speculation. It causes people to maybe raise eyebrows. Fabrizio Romano had tweeted out the fact that Mbappe wasn't starting. He also mentioned that the other players, but if Mbappe was starting and maybe Hakimi was left on the bench, Fabrizio Romano is not tweeting, Hakimi's on the bench. He's just not. So when you bench Mbappe, it's a major story because he plays all the time. And I also feel like you can't have it both ways. Okay, if you tell me it's for squad rotation, he might have an injury, he needs to be rested, then why play him at all? He came in for the last 30 minutes and PSG were already up 1-0. Why bring him in at all at that point? Just leave him on the bench. You have plenty of quality players on the bench that you could bring in on instead. If he's carrying an injury, leave him on the bench. So I don't know what it is, and I feel like it creates unnecessary speculation. And we already know, just because of the nature of Mbappe, there's already just a magnifying glass. There's all these people looking at PSG. They're watching every move, and I just thought benching him was not the right decision. Start him, play him 45 minutes in the first half, then take him off. I don't think anyone would have an issue with that. But the fact that you bench him from the outset, and it's also like, think about this. You're sitting, we're in February. They're in Nantes. It's probably cold. He's sitting there. Could you risk an injury? He has to come in on the second half. Wouldn't it be better? Hey, Mbappe, go out, warm up, get your muscles all fired, and then we're going to bring you on. We're going to play you for 45 minutes, and then we'll rest you. I feel like that would have been a better strategy than we're going to bench you. We're going to cause a whole bunch of turmoil on social media and speculation, and Fabrizio is going to tweet about you, and then we're going to bring you in for the final 30 minutes after you've been sitting for an hour and a half and you're nice and cold, and that's when we're going to do it. I didn't understand that at all. So that's sort of my perspective. But I guess at the end of the day, I do agree with resting him. I think he does play too much. I think we do need to save him for the bigger matches. I would have just left him on the bench for the entire game. If you're going to do it, follow through and do it for the whole game.
Yeah, I think if we were up 3-0 by the time he got subbed on, then I don't think he would have played. I think
we could afford to drop points too. Let's also not forget.
No, I know we can.
Yeah.
We definitely can, but I don't hate that we went for it and got the 3 points. We're going to be 14 or 12 points clear of second place. The bigger, it's not a huge deal, but the bigger gap that we can create between us and second place will really, in the future for our quarterfinal matches, I don't want to see Mbappe play the matches right before those, just because, we have this massive gap, this lead now. And I know we came in with an 11 or 10 or 11 point lead, but I agree with you. I think starting him and then subbing him off at half or at 60 minutes would have been better. But I don't think it's all cracked up to be. I know apparently Luis Enrique made the decision by himself. It wasn't the management or, the board. Sorry. It's, I'm sure that he knew that there'd be all this talk about it. I think there's a big difference between playing 60 and 30 minutes in a match. I think once you've played 60 plus, that's when you see guys truly get tired on the pitch a lot of the times. They just played a full half and then they've been going hard for about 15 minutes after halftime. And for guys that, of course, players play through it all the time, but I think that's when fatigue can really start to set in. And I think Luis Enrique went with the, hey, we'll play you, but we don't want you to have to spend, hardly any time rehabbing or in the physio room after this. So we'll play you 30 minutes. You'll be able to play, and we'll keep you a little bit match sharp. But I don't want you playing anywhere over, anywhere near minutes that could cause fatigue to set in. Because I think when true fatigue sets in, I think that's when injuries go up. At least that's what we see in American sports. So I just don't hate any of the decisions. And, people will speculate and talk about it, but I don't think anyone will be talking about this tomorrow. He got subbed on. I'm sure he'll start next week. To me, I'm not too pressed about it. Most PSG fans believe that he plays too much. So, this quote unquote punishment is probably for his own good. We get he's hyper competitive.
It probably should have been done going back to Tuchel and all of these totally men. We've been calling I would say rest Neymar and boom, injury. We need to rest these players. My whole thing is he's never ever been rested ever.
No, I get it, and of course, I'm sure the timing it's a big influence on it. But another thing, PSG in recent years hasn't often had a 2-0 cushion from the first leg of the round of 16 Champions League tie.
That's true.
So now we're thinking, we usually lose the first leg or draw, and then we're kind of in danger mode going to their home most of the time in the second leg. And it's a lot of, all right, Mbappe is just going to go full throttle, clearly, because especially last year, we were fighting for the Liga title against Lens. Lens got 84 points that last year. Right now, the team in second place, Nice or whoever, they're not even on pace to get 75. So they're not going to get anywhere near us. The second place team in Ligue 1 was much better last year. So and we were fighting for our Champions League lives for most of the season, fighting to win the group.
And last season, I think it was Bayern Munich when they knocked us out. It was on a Wednesday, and then Mbappe did play 90 minutes the following match on a Saturday. So same time frame.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was a different manager, and the league was a little bit tighter. So I guess you could justify it then. But is player safety, player health not the priority? If it is now, maybe it wasn't then. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like we can afford to not play him as much this season because Luis Enrique is a far better manager than Galtier was. He's clearly got a much better grasp on the Champions League. The fact that we didn't win our group, I don't blame Luis Enrique for that. The XG and the numbers said we should have blown away that group of death. So,
Yes.
and now we're probably going to be in the quarterfinals. So, yeah, we can actually afford to not play Kylian Mbappe until he gets an injury. Because, last year he got an injury in January.
It's true.
Was that for, because he was overplayed? Probably not, but you still don't want to risk it. So
no. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think all PSG supporters can agree resting him is the right thing. I maybe would have went about it a little bit differently. I maybe would have been setting the precedent of resting him and other key players, going throughout the season. But this is the way Luis Enrique is going about it. He's been, he hasn't lost since early November. So let's put our faith in him. I don't think there's any drama. I don't think PSG are not punishing him or anything like that. I think this is ultimately going to be a good thing as we look forward. Ethan, we're going to be wrapping up here, but outside of the benching of Mbappe, was there anything in this match against Nantes that you wanted to call out? Anything stand out to you?
Well, the squad rotation, I feel like the game today kind of went similar to the game on Wednesday. Obviously, the two teams were playing us very differently, but we kind of got goals around the same time. I felt like the flow of the game was somewhat similar, and that was a little bit funky. The defense, though, we got a clean sheet today, but, somehow.
Some really good last-ditch defending. I saw Lucas Hernandez broke something up. Donnarumma had to come off his line.
Marquinhos made a block. Yeah, but we've seen more often than not this season when Marquinhos or Danilo has to make a last-second block. More often than not, they're not getting there, and that's what's turned a lot of clean sheets into games we win, but the opponent scored a goal. So, good job of them to clear it, to prevent a goal, but the defense still scares me a little bit. I just can't wait till Nuno Mendes comes back. And then hopefully we've got
officially not on the medical report, so he is. I don't think we'll see him against Real Sociedad on March 5th, but maybe in the next round if we get through.
Yeah, I'm guessing that Nuno Mendes will be on the bench against, who do we have next week? Rennes. It's on Sunday, so we have an 8-day break between matches. I think it's Rennes. Whoever we're playing next week, I bet he'll be on the bench for that. I don't know if he'll play, but that'll be a kind of a promising sign.
And Rennes home against Rennes on February 25th, and then away at Monaco March 1st.
Which that'll be our game right before.
Yep.
Sociedad. Just early prediction that we'll lose to Monaco away because we always do. And then
do you think they'll do anything for Mbappe? Being that that's the club he was at before PSG, and if he's leaving, do you think Monaco has a video montage?
Ooh, good question. You know what? I'm going to guess yes. I think they will. That's actually a good point that you brought that up. I think they'll do something. Yeah, maybe they'll have I know Monaco has probably the weakest fan base in Liga, but maybe all 8 of their supporters will make a tifo with. No, I know. Sorry, I don't want to do Monaco dirty like that. It's just they just don't have a lot of fans. I think it's clear. The Stade Louis II has the weakest atmosphere in Liga, but
it's one of the coolest looking stadiums too.
It is. It's so cool. It's right by it's just across the street is France. It's right on the French border, right on the water. The architecture is super neat. I wish they had a great fan base. They'll probably be in the Champions League next season.
There's no reason for them not to. I guess maybe just not a lot of people in Monaco. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
they have other things, a lot to do in Monaco.
Yeah, they do, and they're very close to Nice. So I feel like if you don't live in Monaco, if you live in France, you're probably a Nice supporter living in that area. So that also probably hurts them. But
or maybe you're Marseille. They're a
little farther away. But yeah, I mean, you have Nice and Marseille, two of the biggest clubs in the country, right down there. So, but no, I'm excited to see. I hope Nuno Mendes, Hernandez, Marquinhos, Hakimi. I hope that's our back line pretty soon because I think, if Marquinhos is the weak link on that back line, I don't think we're doing too bad. It's a lot of these times where we've had horrific Champions League eliminations where Marquinhos is supposed to be the better of the center backs. So if he's the worst of the center backs, then I think I can live with that. But if he's the worst guy in defense for us, then I think we're doing better. We're doing pretty good there.
Fantastic. And then for me against Nantes, let's first give credit Donnarumma, clean sheet. I know he didn't have a lot to do, but the big man, ever since getting sent off against Le Havre back in December, I feel like he's been pretty solid. We haven't been screaming his name and complaining about
Yeah.
any silly mistakes. So knock on wood that he continues up his stellar play. I thought Lucas Hernandez, we mentioned, he had the great last-ditch save or diving tackle to prevent Nantes from scoring in the first half. I thought that Nantes were seconds away from scoring. He comes sliding in, and great tackle from him. So I thought he performed really well. I don't love Zaire-Emery again playing on the right side of the defense back there. I know he gets forward and does a lot of different things, has a lot of mobility, but I just don't know if we're using him the best way there. And maybe with Nuno Mendes coming back and we get Hakimi back in there, maybe this is just a one-off or something. But I didn't love that. And I thought Kang-In on the wing, it's just a little disappointing, but he's had it tough. He international duty coming in this summer. He just hasn't had a good spell of minutes, so it's hard to be too harsh on him. But I didn't think he had a great game, and just overall, I know we scored 2 goals, but in the first half, Colomwani with Mbappe looking on, I just wanted to see more from him. Maybe this, to your credit, your guy Rama should have been in that spot. Maybe it's time for him to get an opportunity. If Colomwani is not going to take these opportunities when he gets a start with Mbappe on the bench, maybe we try and give Ramos an opportunity. So we'll see there. But overall, a good, solid team victory against Nantes in Ligue 1. PSG extending their league at the top of Ligue 1. So that's looking good. We've got the Coupe de France that's still rolling. We've talked about the Champions League, March 5th. We'll see if PSG can advance. Hopefully, it'll be the first time in 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, that PSG will advance past the round of 16. So let's hope that we can keep this positive results going. Again, we haven't lost since early November. So let's keep it rolling. And things are looking positive and everything. Mbappe, let's just everybody calm. The future is bright. This was a little bit of the benching, a little bit of controversy, but I feel like it's all going to be forgotten after today. Anyway, Ethan, any final words before we let you run?
No, I don't think so.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Thank you for subscribing. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and leave us a review if you can. Really would appreciate that. Visit psgtalk.com for all your Paris Saint-Germain news. And over on Substack, we've got some of our Twitter spaces. So if you missed that, you can go and listen to that. And we've got some columns up for myself as well. So again, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.